'cause you're always on my mind. And I thought I'd tell you 'cause it's kind of funny, 'cause you moved on and I'm no You don't give a thought about me at night. You don't care if I'm drowning or right inside, 'cause you're always on my mind. And I thought I'd tell you 'cause it's kind of funny, 'cause you moved on and I'm long gone. I'm long gone. Don't mean no disrespect, I sure hope you the best. I thought you were the answers to my dreams, but turns out I'm just another victim to your schemes. 'Cause you're always on my mind. And I thought I'd tell you 'cause it's kind of funny, 'cause you moved on and I'm long gone. I'm long gone. No, I'm long gone.
Have me in the shot. If you don't guys come to me, I go to you. Beautiful. There's nobody now. Arthur's in the shot. This is so beautiful. The camera's trying to follow. There you go. You see? I told you. I told you. You see? Now I'm still on profile. Why? My camera number 3 is not in the shot. Introducing the show. There you go. Guys, when we go live, Annalise, she was so incredible. What an angelic performance. She is so beautiful to look at and such a wonderful talent. It was interesting. Tonight, we have a very special guest besides our beautiful girl. We have this incredible writer, Richard Schultz. I said it right, Richard?
That's pretty close.
I said it pretty right. You guys, this is very confusing. Because we go live, things happen.
Sissy, you're wonderful. You don't do anything wrong.
Oh, thank you. You know what's funny? Because I see her performing and she looks so angelic that you just keep looking at her and you don't even want to interrupt. In fact, I feel kind of guilty that I interrupt her. In fact, I should have you here. I'm gonna talk to her right after because she was pretty good. We're gonna talk about you and your book. If we can have a little tiny close-up. Once again, this is it. Right here, it looks better. And that's the phone ringing. That's okay. I love it. Dwayne Harris, I send my love to you. Okay, this is our topic tonight. This wonderful book, I haven't read, I feel guilty, but I'm gonna do my homework. I'm gonna start reading it tonight. We're gonna talk about you, your journey, how you became a writer. Are you Dutch? Are you happy? Well, I can keep going. So I'm gonna let you talk.
First, by the way, I wanted to thank Dwayne Harris with Big Mountain Entertainment. He's been very kind to me, and I want to thank you for having me.
Yeah, sure. Well, Richard, I'm very excited to have you.
What do you want to
here.
know about?
Well, let's talk about the book. You know, why do you write a book? This is a historical novel, right? This is something that doesn't come up very easy. It takes a lot of work.
I might not look it, but I'm 109 years old.
No,
so
you're not. I'm 100 years old. I'm at no chip. I've been around for many, many, many ages.
Well, I've studied a lot of history. And
for many years.
Many, many years. And I've always thought that the Dutch contributions to America have been kind of minimized within our English language and culture. You know, things like the Republican form of government that we have, our economic system, yachts, I mean, a whole host of other things. And having watched that, been a New Yorker and kind of seen the Hudson River, again, another Dutch discovery, I thought it was time to kind of share that information with my fellow Americans, that we have this important Dutch heritage.
Okay, are you Dutch?
No, I'm not Dutch.
But you are Hungarian, you said, right?
Oh, on my father's side.
Your father's side.
Right, yeah, but we don't like to talk about my mother's side because, you know, that's the Hornick side of the family, and they're kind of the wild ones. And see, they
so we can't go there.
Well, they kind of stretch their history, you know, their family tree back to Attila the Hun. And there's some discussion about that first matriarch, whether, you know, Attila was on one of his raids, or this was a consensual thing. So for the Hornick side of the family, I can't discuss that on television. Okay,
we're not going to get into it. You know, there's so much to talk about the book. You know, this is something that, you know, why I was thinking, you know, when I was doing my homework this week for this interview, why this is so relevant. Because there's so many, I mean, it's so hard to get published to begin with.
Right.
That's very, very difficult.
Well, it's kind of relevant, see, because contemporary society today, you look at the major problems, example, religious strife. We're talking about the war with Islam. You look at climate change, people are fearful. You talk about hunger in Africa and other places, and some of it in our own country. You know, the Dutch met in the 15th century, had all of these same problems, and even found a few solutions. They were dealing with things like the Little Ice Age, and of course the Protestant Reformation and a host of other things. But we can look back, history kind of repeats itself. So it's important because we can look back and say, hey, the Dutch might have had a few solutions then that we can use now. That's why it's important.
That's why it's so relevant.
Yeah.
And how long it took you to write this book?
I think about 4 years. Well, you know,
non-stop. I mean, like.
Well, no. It's first is a lot of research.
Right.
And the first 3 years, it's very, you know, I'm not Dutch myself, so I had to be extra careful when I was doing it.
Right.
And then, of course, once I got it done, it's a matter of writing and rewriting. You know, and it's hard for a guy like me who, you know, who has problems reading and writing to become an author. You know, so it was you know, it was something
writing
new.
is about rewriting. How many times you have to go back to your own work? Are you very fussy with your work? Are you obsessed with your own work to the point that you can't write anymore? Or you like to give the material? You like to share your work during the process?
During the period of writing this, there were months at a time where I would take the book and just kind of toss it in the corner of the room. Okay, what about your wife? Oh. I'm not forgot. I'm telling you, Angie, my memory is impeccable. This book was dedicated to your wife, Angie. By the way, she's right here in the studio. Want to send a love to you. Okay? It was dedicated to her. Well, the woman, Nancy's a saint.
Yes.
She looks like a saint. She's put up with me for 39 years, you know.
Yeah, because you look like a lot of work, Richard. It seems right? I mean, you can see, I can see with you that you have all this energy. When I see you, said, oh my God, he is a writer. But he's been around, you've been around for many. Can we go back in time and talk a little bit? Because I wanted to start with your background first. Can we go back a little bit and give us a little bit about that? I was a kind of a kid that got out of high school and I went into the service because that's what you did in those days. And I served 3 years with the Army in Korea. And then when I got out, I went back to community college for a couple of years. And then I worked at the Daily News for a little while as a kind of high-class office boy, and then eventually I got a 2-year degree, and then I went down and Institute of Finance down on Wall Street and got a broker's license. So I mean, you've done everything. It's like running for the White House. I mean, it's like you've done it at all.
I'm trying to think of a next career, you know, because I went through this business thing and then I opened my own business.
Right, for 25 years, something like that. That's what Angie was telling me right before the interview.
And then when I was about 85, I went back and got my bachelor's and my master's, and I got certified as a teacher, and I taught for about 10 years on and off, and then I wrote the book, and I don't know what I'm going to do.
And here you are,
I don't know
having this conversation with this drop-dead gorgeous woman. Huh? Not too bad, huh? I'm not bragging. I'm just teasing you. Come on. I don't see myself as a pretty woman, Jeremy.
It's a reasonably good book.
Honestly, I'm going to read it. I love history, and it's relevant, and it matters. And I'm just wondering about the obstacles and the challenges along the way.
Well, first I had to make a decision. Whether, you know, one of the things I wanted to do with this book, because if you're talking about talking about a tale of any civilization, particularly covering 1,500 years of it, you're basically talking about a war story.
Right.
And any civilization, even the tolerant Dutch. So when I started this out, I didn't want it just to be a war story. So I was very careful about including female characters in here.
Like you said, you have quite a few female characters. Right.
And the problem with females in history is that basically the historians have all been guys. And when they've written these books, women have all been eliminated, see?
Right.
So, but
why is that? I mean, what is that? It seems like you guys gonna live without us, that's for sure. What do you think? We know that for sure. But why do you think I don't know if it's an obsession, is a pattern of behavior that women seem to be excluded. When you read a great history book, but besides Queen Elizabeth, there's wonderful women out there, Mother Teresa, Queen Elizabeth, and I can keep going.
Right.
Okay, but it's always, a lot of the time from the man's perspective. Yeah. It's kind of like sometimes difficult to find. Well, now you can see more, but I'm talking about going back in time.
The world is changing, because if you go back in time like this, Sissy, and you're looking at these guys and they wrote these books, well, they never figured, because at that time there were bans on women even learning to read or having an education. And basically that has started to change now, particularly now in our modern society. And the same women who who now read and buy books are reading, like, that's why historical fiction or history in general doesn't necessarily appeal to a lot of women, because they've been excluded. Right. So when I wrote this book, I wanted to put female characters in that played realistic roles. I mean, the real roles that women played in history, the ones that were ignored. So, you know, it's only a little book, but I did the best I could with it.
Any piece of writing is worth it. Any piece of writing, it takes time, and I have so much respect for writers. I told you that I was watching that movie in HBO, Hemingway and Gyllenhaal with Clive Owen and Nicole Kidman. Yeah. And I love that moment when he says that the last thing the writer should ask him to do is to talk. You know what I'm saying? Your work, your job is to write. That's your art, that's your skill.
I'll be honest with you, I've never had problems talking.
You never had it? No, I can see that. You from the get-go. We start talking, and at least we're gonna go back to my girl in a minute, because I need another song. I'm getting into a conversation and trying to squeeze all the juice out of this orange.
But let me tell you a little bit about the book. Basically, it covers 1,500 years from Roman time up until the early days of the of the Dutch revolt against Spain. Okay. And it basically follows two Dutch families, a noble family and a common...
That's the storyline, what you're giving me now.
Right. And it follows over that 1,500 period and in all their adventures, you know. Now, I could have written a history book by the time I was through with all my research, but, you know, historical fiction can be really exciting. It can be fun. And it can also be a way for people to learn real history. Like, I was very careful in this book that the time and sequences and the issues and the events were accurate.
Right.
And I had a lot of consultation with Dutch scholars and Dutch historians. And basically, I think we did that in the book. We told the true story of history, but in an exciting way. I had a joke with my wife.